bippity boppity boo, as Cinderella's fairy godmother would say when casting an enchantment. Everyone knows the classic fairy tale that has imprinted on everyone's minds in their childhood. But let's think for a minute. What is fantasy literature? No, I'm not just talking about a little magic and stories that have princesses and princesses in them, but it is much more than that. Fantasy literature is the creation of an entire world and often has some aspects of magic and magical creatures. Fantasy literature offers the readers a means of escapism through their everyday lives. Reading fantasy literature gives us pleasure of traveling to new worlds and discovering new beings. Even on that scale, fantasy literature offers so much more than just a form of escapism. It inspires the human mind and opens it up to countless means of new creativity, paving the way for all modes of art: painting, literature, poetry, music. And one thing that we have really studied this term would be fairy tales, which fairy tales I found are the foundation of fantasy literature and go back for thousands of years, but the oldest, which we have studied, would be Beowulf, which is roughly around 1,000 years old. Although Beowulf is considered an epic poem, it's not hard to categorize it as a fairy tale or to put it in that genre as fantasy, especially since it's about a hero who battles magical monsters and dragons, to say, and with magical swords. But why are fairy tales considered fantasy? I mean, like, growing up, you just think of them as childhood stories. Some of them are made to scare children or whatnot. But actually, you first see fairy tales have fall into that category because they have magical creatures such as orcs, witches, talking animals, like the big bad wolf and the three little pigs, and fairy tales take on adventures like Little Red Riding Hood and Cinderella, her adventure to becoming to finding her knight in shining armor, and it takes us to other worlds that are not of our own. But fairy tales also offer something else. They offer what we call a moral lesson or a guidance, and such as Cinderella, she teaches us the importance of helping others. And the fairy godmother came and helped Cinderella with her magic and helped her go to the ball so that she can find her prince and escape her what you would call the evil stepsisters and stepmother. And Frozen, which isn't technically a book, it's a movie, but I guess you could classify that as fantasy, would teach us about sisterly love. But my favorite fairy tale that we have read in this class, and it kept me entertained, was The Rose and the Ring. And it provided a moral lesson not for everyday people, but more for the wealthy, the people with titles and higher status. And that would be, the world is not given to you with a silver spoon, and respect must be earned. And a little bit of hardship teaches us life lessons that make us wiser. The Rose and the Ring is a satire, which is probably why I liked it so much, because it was pretty funny. And my favorite character was the fairy blacksmith. She was different from most fairy tale godmothers. She wanted to help, but grew tired, as many of us do in our daily jobs. She felt as feeling unappreciated, and seeing her gifts were doing no good, not helping anybody that she intended. But before her last gifts that she gave before she made her retirement was Prince Giglio and Princess Roselda, and she taught them humility and how to live a happy life. But going beyond fairy tales, there are countless novels and further branches out of the fantasy genre. Some of my favorites are Harry Potter and the Lord of the Ring. Harry Potter features an entire world of wizards and separates, from the Muggle world, the non-magic world, and the Lord of the Rings, filled with monsters and magical creatures, as Frodo has to save Middle-earth from the evil Lord. But the point is that fantasy literature offers so much more than just a form of escapism. It is an important aspect to our society and to our arts. Fantasy literature is one of my favorite genres, as you could tell. And I hope you enjoyed the video.